Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and this is
Mabz
from Chalk by Mabz. And we do lots of signage projects together, like murals and big windows and all sorts of things. And we get a lot of questions about it. But we've actually been making a full course about signage. At the time of this recording, we're working on it right now. And so we've been having a lot of really good discussions about things that we want to teach our students based on mistakes that we've made in the past.
Many mistakes. So we thought we'd come here and talk about some of our biggest mistakes and what we learned from them.
Yeah, so we each brainstormed a few of the mistakes that we've made individually in the past, and we'll just kind of chat through them, I guess. And then we've got some like key takeaways that you can use to avoid making these mistakes yourself in the future. So we'll go through those at the end.
Learn from us.
Okay, so I only have two that I like really wanted to touch on. How many do you have?
There's 3.
Okay, then you start.
Okay, so angriest client situation was I did a seating chart and multiple of the names were wrong. Of like the wedding party.
Yeah.
To my defense, it was like letters that I'd accidentally inverted. I know it's not like that. I still made the mistake. I know I made the mistake, but it was like the I and the E's were switched, or like the AE's kind of thing.
Okay, we probably should have compared notes about what our mistakes were before, because that's an exact one of mine. So I did a seating chart too, and it was the bride's whole family had this same last name, and I screwed up every single one of them.
Will you forever remember their names?
Oh yeah.
I don't.
Oh, I remember the name.
No, I'm like trying to block it out of my memory.
Mine was Leibovich, and I can't remember if it was like L-I-E or L-E-I, and I inverted it, and it was like literally on 50 names. It was a massive wedding, and her whole family had that same last name. And she picked it up, she brought it to the wedding. I left the city, like I went to the cottage for the weekend, and I got a frantic phone call on like a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. being like, all the names are wrong on my seating chart. And I had to drive 2 hours back with my little Q-tip and my oil-based paint pen and go on site and fix 50 names on the spot.
Okay, so I couldn't fix it. They were picking it up and I was leaving. I don't remember where I was going, but I was leaving. So it was all wrapped up, like with them wrapped. So they didn't take a solid look at it when they picked it up. And the wedding was actually in Toronto, so they got there. So what I had to do to try and solve this issue was I explained, like, this is the pen I used. This is, get a Q-tip and like some acetone and just like tweak it. And I'm pretty sure I gave them like a huge discount to make up for it, because I couldn't go and physically fix it myself.
Okay, well we both had that one.
So the lesson though is, for me, it's to have somebody else read it over, because when you've been looking at something, especially a mirror, because you're seeing double the whole time, having somebody else come and do a check for you is key. Because
even if, I'll have the whole seating chart list in my head, but in my head, Leibovich is L-I-E.
I could never spell.
And I'm
names.
I'm checking them, but I'm still seeing it wrong. I'm like, Leibovich, didn't look at the spelling. So that's definitely lesson number 1. Get someone else to proofread for you. My biggest mistake, other than that one, I don't know if I want to call it a mistake. It was an oversight, I guess, like something I didn't realize. And this is one of those things where, like, when you're talking about mistakes, it's like you don't know about these things until it happens. Like I couldn't have foreseen this issue. So
what was it, Becca?
So I was doing a really big storefront window, and you letter on the inside of the window. And so I get on site, I meet them there, I see the windows, we're standing inside, we're talking about it, they're telling me, like, here's where you're gonna go, and here's the exact window and whatever. And so I start doing it. I do the whole window. And I had started in the morning, and so I went outside, I looked at it from the outside, like as I'm working, you do a little bit on the inside, you go outside, you look around, everything looked good. And then in the afternoon, when the sun started coming up, it became apparent that the windows were tinted. And so, like, as the sun hits it in a different way, you can't really see the lettering because it's on the inside. They had a bunch of decals on the outside of the window that were like bright white, and they thought that my lettering would be as bright as those decals.
That's not a fair comparison.
No, so it was like a miscommunication where they thought it would be the same as their decals, and I didn't realize their windows were tinted, and they didn't tell me they were tinted, and so it was like something that I didn't know to ask at the time. Yeah. And now every time I do a window job, I ask them, are your windows tinted? Because if so, you're not going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
So in that job, they ended up not being super thrilled, and I was like, there's only so much I can do. I can't do the lettering on the outside because it'll just get ruined by weather. And I kind of said like, listen, I can't give you a refund because I spent literally 2 days doing your windows for you, but I can do an extra, like I did something else in a different spot in their building for them as a bonus, and kind of, yeah.
Well, my second one is similar because it was like a communication issue, and it was also a window, but my problem was that the windows were massive, and the measurements I was given was like the amount of space they wanted to be filled in. And so I brought the tools at that point that I always brought, which was just a medium point pen, but I would have needed like the biggest, juiciest, fattest one ever for my lettering looked like this itty bitty thing on these massive windows.
Okay, but here's my question. Did they never give you dimensions?
They did, not of like the whole thing, because it was like massive windows, but like the width, and they wanted like 4x4 feet filled.
So they told you the size they wanted, and you made it to that size.
So I made it within 4x4, but not taking up 4x4.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it looked so small on these massive windows. Because like, you have a piece of paper that's 4x4. It's like, okay, within it, but they wanted it to be that big.
You account for a margin and stuff. Yeah. Gotcha.
So I didn't have the right tools. My parents had to like drive across the city, and I had to be on the phone like, get me some big fat Sharpies. And I was crying. It was awful. I was there for so long. But now I always bring big markers just in case.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we have a whole video about what's in our toolboxes, and a whole free downloadable PDF you can grab that shows everything we recommend always having in your kit. And you had the big one.
Yeah, I did have a big one.
Yeah, I think those are my two biggest ones. It's always been spelling things, or and then I would say like some other bonus, not mistakes, but like things that we've screwed up, and lessons are like not giving ourselves enough time. So like if the client asks, if they'll say like, how many hours do you need us to have the store closed or whatever, and we only say 3, and then it ends up taking literally 9.
Yeah, that's happened.
Yeah, or again, not having the right tools. So like we've done a job before where we were doing something in color, and we thought we were going to do it with small Posca pens, and then we got on site and decided it was way too big, so we needed actual paint brushes and acrylic paint, so we had to leave the site, go get paint, come back. Just like planning things like that.
I have another one though.
Okay.
Where I was doing, and I know I've talked about this before, maybe even like during one of our chats in the past, but I had a chalkboard, I was doing something permanent on it, so once it was on, and I knew what they wanted, I did it, and then only when they got it did they tell me that they actually wanted it the other orientation. So I had made it landscape, and they wanted horizontal, but it was too late. And so I felt awful, because it was like this like vintage chalkboard, like it was this cool thing, and I'm like, I messed it up. But they said it still worked with the space. Don't know if they're lying to me or not to make me feel better, but now I'm always like, which way does it go before I start? Yeah,
so that kind of brings us to, like, if we go over it, like wrap this all up with a bow and explain the actual like takeaways and the tips to avoid these mistakes, I would say the number 1 is to ask way more questions than you think you need to, or like, like you sort of feel uncomfortable sometimes feeling like you're being nitpicky about things, but clients don't mind, because overall, if they end up like, if you had asked them about the orientation, they would have been much happier with the outcome. They're happy to answer questions like that, but it's also tricky when you're getting started not knowing exactly what questions to ask, which
I was gonna say though, in my circumstance, this last one that I said, I think it was one of those things that they were like, we trust you, just do your thing. So I didn't give a mock-up or anything like that. So had I done a mock-up for them, Yeah, so.
It is tricky with clients who say that they trust you fully because, yeah, I mean, if they didn't communicate to you.
But I also didn't ask. So now I ask.
Yeah. So there's that. And then the second thing I would say is like, ideally go see the space. If you have to be on site to do a job, like windows or a mural or something, go see it and go like physically touch the wall if you're doing a mural, or like see if the windows are tinted, see if there's anything that a client might overlook that you would need to know. And if you can't actually go, then at least get pictures and like very accurate dimensions.
Ask them twice even.
Because often the client will say like, oh, it's about 5 feet by 4 feet. And
that can
literally
mess you up.
2 weeks ago, I had a job and I showed up and it was 2 feet bigger than that. And she had clearly just like looked at it and been like, oh, I'm about 5 feet. That looks like about 5 feet. And I was like, no.
It's not 5 feet.
Yeah. So either go or get really accurate dimensions and pictures. There was one we already said. Oh, get someone else to proofread.
Oh, yeah.
That's thing number 3.
Yeah.
Number 4, and like I briefly mentioned this, overestimate how long it's going to take you. Always. Always overestimate.
And bring more supplies than you think if you're going on site. Like, you know, with the paint or the markers. It's better to have the just in case than to have to leave. Yeah,
so that's number 5. Just be over prepared. Always have like way more things than you think you're gonna need. Yeah. Also, all of these things are covered in our course.
I thought you had another mistake. I was like, oh my God, what is it?
No. I was doing like a...
Oh.
So all of these things are covered in our course. We have a course called Signing Up, which like, see what we did there? It's about signing. You should sign up for signing up. It's about signs.
How many times can I wink in the same minute?
And you can find that. We'll link to it down below, but the actual direct link is signingupcourse.com.
We talk about all these things,
all these things, plus way more.
Yeah.
But hopefully just even seeing this video and hearing us talk about our mistakes will help you avoid some of them in the future. And we're curious, if you are watching this, have you ever made a dumb signage mistake or overlooked something really crucial?
Same as us or like worse?
Yeah.
Make us feel better.
But also like the more people share in the comments, the more people can learn from each other and avoid those mistakes. So leave us a comment if you have one. We'd love to hear your story. And then we'll link you to another signage related video next and see you over there.
Toodaloo.